Well, folks, I'm back in Sweden now, and sitting on my balcony. It's warm. It has been warm for almost 2 weeks here, and I actually have been, I've made some vlogs in Bilbao in Spain because I was there for 4 days over the last weekend, 1 week ago, to see the UEFA Women's Champions League Final 2024 between FC Barcelona and Olympique Lyonnais, and you can find the links to these videos on my channel. But today it's going to be about books, about 10 new books that I discovered in April, May, and now in June. 10 new published books that could be interesting to you, that are definitely interesting to me, and hopefully you will find 1 or 2 or 3 of them also interesting. Let's do this. Let's talk about 10 new books. The first one is called Fire Exit by Morgan Talty. It will be published on June the 4th. From the porch of his home, Charles Lammasway has watched the life he might have had unfold across the river on Maine's Penobscot Reservation. On the far bank, he caught brief moments of his neighbor Elizabeth's life, from the day she came home from the hospital to her early 20s. But there's always been something deeper and more dangerous than the river that divides him from her and the rest of the tribal community. It's the secret that Elizabeth is his daughter, a secret Charles is no longer willing to keep. Now, it has been weeks since he has seen Elizabeth, and Charles is worried. As he attempts to hold on to and care for what he can, his home and property, his alcoholic, quick-tempered and big-hearted friend Bobby, and his mother Louise, who is slipping ever deeper into dementia, he becomes increasingly haunted by his past. Forced to confront a lost childhood on the reservation, a love affair cut short, and the death of his beloved stepfather, Frederick, in a hunting accident, a death that he and Louise are at odds over as to where to lay the blame on, Charles contends with questions he's long been afraid to ask. Is his secret about Elizabeth his to share, and would his daughter want to know the truth, even if it could cost her everything that she's ever known? From the award-winning author of Night of the Living Res, Morgan Talty's first book. This is his first novel. Fire Exit is a masterful and unforgettable story of family, legacy, bloodlines, culture, and inheritance, and what, if anything, we owe to one another. The second book comes from my great music love for Joni Mitchell. Traveling on the Path of Joni Mitchell by Ann Powers will be published on June the 20th. For decades, the Canadian singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell's life and music have enraptured listeners. One of the most celebrated artists of her generation, Mitchell has inspired countless musicians, from peers like James Taylor to inheritors like Prince and Brandi Carlile, and authors who have dissected her music and her life in their writing. At the same time, Mitchell has always been a force beckoning us still closer, as with the other arm she pushes us away. Given this, music critic Ann Powers wondered if there was another way to draw insights from the life of this singular musician who never stops moving and never stops experimenting. In Traveling, Powers seeks to understand Mitchell through her myriad journeys, through extensive interviews with Mitchell's peers and deep archival research. She takes readers to rural Canada, mapping the singer's childhood battle with polio. She also charts the course of Joni Mitchell's musical evolution, ranging from early folk to jazz fusion to experimentation with pop synthetics. She follows the winding road of Joni Mitchell's collaborations with other greats and the loves that emerged along the way, all the way through to the remarkable return of Joni Mitchell to music making after the 2015 aneurysm that nearly took her life. Along this amazing journey, Ann Powers' wide-ranging musings on the artist's life and career reconsider the biographer's role and the way it twines against the reality of a fan. In doing so, Traveling illustrates the shifting nature of biography and the ultimate contradiction of that an icon cannot truly completely be known to a fan. The third book on my list of 10 great new books in this first part of the year 2024. First half is Little Rot by Akwaeke, Emezi, and will be published on June the 19th. One weekend, the elite underbelly of a Nigerian city. A breakup that starts a spiral, a party that goes awry. A tangled web of sex and lies and corruption that leaves no one unscathed. Little Rot is a whirling journey through the city's dark side, told through the eyes of 5 people, each determined to run from the twisted powers out to destroy them. Ama and Kalu are a longtime couple who have just split. When Kalu, reeling from his loss, visits a sex party hosted by his best friend Ahmed, he makes a decision that will plunge them all into chaos, brutally upending their lives. Ola and Soraya, 2 Nigerian sex workers visiting from Kuala Lumpur, intersect with 3 old friends as everything goes to hell. Sucked into the city's corrupt underworld and underbelly, they're all looking for a way out of the trouble they've instigated, driven by loss and fueled by a desperate need to escape the dangerous threat that looms over them. They careen madly in the face of the poison of power, sexual violence, murder, and betrayals. Little Rot tests how far these 5 will go to save each other or themselves when confronted by evil. The next book on my list is Caledonian Road by the Scottish writer Andrew O'Hagan, published by W. Norton in April 2024. A few weeks ago, Campbell Flynn is an art historian and biographer of Vermeer, always knew that when his life came crashing down, it would happen in public. Yet he never ever imagined that a single year in London would expose so much. Entangled with a brilliant student, he begins to see trouble brewing for his family and friends. All his worlds collide: the art scene and academia, fashion and the English aristocracy, journalism and the internet, as dangerous forces enter his life and Caledonian Road gives up its secrets. Andrew O'Hagan has written a social novel in the Victorian style, almost 600 pages or a little more, drawing a whole cast of characters into company with each other and revealing the inner energies of the way we live now. The Lost Love Songs of Boysie Singh by Ingrid Persaud, published also a few weeks ago in April in 2024. This is the tale of 4 women in the Caribbean. 4 women in the Caribbean. We have Pop, brilliant, vulnerable, and stuck. She's determined to free herself from the traps of her past. Maria Lala, a devoted mother, her only connection to her man is their little boy, and she will do anything to keep them close. The 3rd woman in our little novel is Doris. For Doris, well, he's glorious, and once she flicked him into shape, her husband presents an opportunity to climb the social ladder. She's heard the awful stories, but she's sure they won't be hers. Rosie just wants to mind her business, her lover Eddie, and her store. 4 lives, connected and controlled by just one man, the notorious, charismatic gangster Boysie Singh. Pull up a chair and let these women tell of the man they believed could love, help, or free them, and how some of them survived to tell a tale at all. Ingrid Persaud's 2nd novel after her first one is called Love After Love, which you might remember. The Spy by AJ Chowdhury. It was published in April 2024. It's his first novel about the detective Kamil Rahman, who's working for the Met Police, but this time he gets a call from MI5. They've received intelligence of a terrorist plot, and it's Kamil they need. Posing as a disaffected cop and working in his friend Anjoli's restaurant on Brick Lane in the centre of London, England, Kamil attempts to infiltrate the cell. What he uncovers leads him halfway across the world to Kashmir and face to face with an old nemesis. Yeah, that's what happens in the book. Meanwhile, Anjoli starts to investigate the disappearance of a young boy who's sending coded messages to his parents. As she attempts to solve his clues, she finds herself in greater danger than she could have imagined. Sounds very interesting, this novel. Time is running out for Kamil and Anjoli. Can they save the boy and save a nation before it's too late? What do you think? Well, read the book The Spy by Ajay Chowdhury. Night Train to Odesa, we come to the nonfiction section, covering the human cost of Russia's war by Jen Stout, published in May 2024. When Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, millions of lives changed in an instant. Millions of people were suddenly on the move. In this great flow of people was a reporter from the north of Scotland, Jen Stout. She left Moscow abruptly, ending up on a border post in southeast Romania, from where she began to cover the human cost of Russian aggression. Her first-hand, vivid reporting brought the war home to readers in Scotland as she reported from front lines and cities across Ukraine. Stories from the night trains, birthday parties, military hospitals, and stories from the ground from a writer with a deep sense of empathy, always seeking to understand the bigger pictures. The bigger picture, the big questions of identity, history, hopes, and fears in this war right in the heart of Europe. Night Train to Odesa begins in Russia and continues to focus on people, relationships, and individuals in Ukraine. It is the account of a young female reporter with no institutional backup or security. Both in language and themes, it is accessible and highly readable, and a very important book for understanding of what happens in Ukraine. Next one is The Struggle for Taiwan, a history of America, China, and the island caught between, published a few weeks ago in May 2024. As tensions over Taiwan escalate, the United States and China stand on the brink of a catastrophic war. Resolving the impasse demands we understand how it began. In 1943, America declared that Japanese-held Taiwan would return to China at the conclusion of World War II. The Chinese Civil War led to a change of plans. The Communist Party came to power in China, and the defeated nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek flew to Taiwan, where he was afforded U.S. protection. The specter of conflict has loomed ever since. In The Struggle for Taiwan, Sulmaan Wasif Khan offers the first comprehensive history of the triangular relationships between the United States, China, and Taiwan, exploring America's ambivalent commitment to Taiwan's defense, China's bitterness about the separation, and Taiwan's impressive transformation into a flourishing democracy. War is not inevitable, Khan shows, but to avoid it, decision makers must heed the lessons of the past. This is title number 8. Bad Habit by Alana S Potero, published in May 2024. Told in the heart-trending voice of a girl trapped within the body of a boy, Bad Habit is a story of coming of age in working-class Madrid in Spain, in a god-forsaken neighborhood, ironically named after a saint. Alana S Potero's spunky protagonist struggles to make sense of herself and the world she inhabits, conveying her surroundings with mythic allusions and a poetic vitality absent from everyday life. Set against the heroin epidemic that ravaged Madrid in the 1980s and the city's vibrant party scene that dominated its nightlife in the 1990s, Bad Habits follows Potero's unnamed protagonist as she grows up in a blue-collar suburb that has no place for her. Forging ahead, she discovers community and kinship in downtown Madrid amid a lively party scene animated by junkies, pop divas, and fallen angels. And now to the last title on my top 10 books that were recently published list is New Cold Wars, China's Rise, Russia's Invasion, and America's Struggle to Defend the West by David E. Sanger. Published just a few days ago. More than 30 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the United States finds itself in a volatile rivalry against the world's other two great nuclear powers. Yet this era bears very little resemblance to the old Cold War. As Putin and Xi increasingly threaten to team up, this moment grows far more complex and undeniably more dangerous than the world of half a century ago. New Cold Wars, the latest from Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist and best-selling author of The Perfect Weapon, David E. Sanger, tells the riveting story of America at a crossroads. At the turn of the millennium, the United States was confident that a democratic Russia and a newly wealthy China could gradually be pulled into the Western-led order. That proved a fantasy. By the time Washington emerged from the age of terrorism, the three nuclear powers were engaged in a new high-stakes struggle for military, economic, and technological supremacy, with nations around the world forced to take sides. Based on a remarkable array of interviews with top officials in the United States, foreign leaders, and tech companies thrust onto the front lines, Sanger unfolds a riveting narrative spun around the era's critical will the mistakes Putin made in his ill-considered invasion of Ukraine prove his undoing? And will he reach for his nuclear arsenal? Will China strike back at the U.S. chip embargo or seize Taiwan, the world's semiconductor capital? Taken readers from the battlefields of Ukraine, where trench warfare and cyber warfare are fought side by side, to the back rooms and boardrooms where diplomats, spies, and tech executives jockey for geopolitical advantage, New Cold Wars is a remarkable first draft history chronicling America's return to superpower conflict, the choices that lie ahead, and what is at stake for the United States and the world. This is book number 10, concludes my list of top 10 books. I will try to get these books somehow, somewhere, hopefully through the library, maybe even in an electronic version. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for destroying my video. So these were 10 books that were recently published, and I hope to get my hands on them in one or another constellation. I will soon make a TBR for the summer months, June, July, and August, for myself, which will be a mixture of new books and backlist books that I want to read. And I will also, of course, approach very soon the mid-year book freak out tag. See you soon in another video. Subscribe to the channel. Leave me beautiful comments down below. What are you reading? What are your new books that you love and that you absolutely need to get your hands on? Comments down below. Slap a like. Subscribe to the channel. Bye-bye.